The arena master's voice cut through the chaos. He sounded angry and desperate at the same time. The match must continue. Council law demands it. The human fights or the human dies. Kralvex turned his head toward the announcement booth. His eyes blazed with something dangerous. I know what the law says, but I also know what honor demands. This human is not prey. He is a warrior. That changes nothing, the arena master insisted. The sentence has been given. He must fight. Day stepped forward. His voice was calm. Then we fight. But we do it properly, with respect. The way warriors should. Kralvex looked back at him. For a moment, something passed between them. Understanding. They both knew this was bigger than just them now. The whole galaxy was watching. Whatever happened next would echo across 1,000 worlds. Agreed, Kralvex said. His mandibles clicked together in approval. No tricks. No holding back. We fight with full strength. May the better warrior win, and may both of us find honor in the battle. The crowd settled down slightly, but everything had changed. This was no longer entertainment. This was no longer a joke. This was going to be a real fight between two warriors who had both survived impossible odds. The arena officials gave the signal. The match was officially starting now. Kralvex moved first. He was fast, incredibly fast for something so large. His forearms blurred as he struck at Day from multiple angles. Most opponents would have been overwhelmed immediately. But Day was not most opponents. He ducked under the first strike, twisted away from the second, blocked the third with his forearm and felt the impact shake his bones. The fourth strike he avoided by rolling to the side. The concrete floor where he had been standing cracked from the force of Kralvex's fist. The crowd gasped. The human had survived the opening combination. That alone was noteworthy. Day did not stay defensive. He could not afford to. Kralvex was stronger and had longer reach. If Day just defended, he would lose eventually. He had to attack. He had to take risks. He moved inside Kralvex's guard. It was dangerous. Those forearms could grab him and crush him. But being close meant the Thurian warrior could not use his full reach. Day struck at nerve clusters he had learned about years ago. Places where even the toughest aliens felt pain. Kralvex grunted. It was the first sound of discomfort he had made in 300 matches. His blood began to flow from a cut on his lower right arm, dark blue against his gray skin. The entire stadium went silent again. The apex warrior was bleeding. The undefeated champion had been wounded by a human. First blood to the human, an announcer whispered, unable to believe what he was saying. Kralvex looked at his arm. Then he looked at Day. A strange expression crossed his face. It might have been a smile. It was hard to tell with Thurian features. You have trained well, brother. You know where to strike. I have fought your people before, Day said between heavy breaths. Not as enemies, as allies. They taught me things. Good, Kralvex said. Then you understand this is not personal. This is just what must happen. He attacked again. But this time his pattern was different. He was adapting, learning from those first exchanges. This was what made Kralvex truly dangerous. He was not just strong and fast. He was intelligent. He could change his tactics mid-fight. Day had to adapt too. He used his smaller size as an advantage. Humans were flexible in ways many other species were not. He rolled under strikes, bent backward to avoid grabs, moved in patterns that did not make sense to someone with forearms and a rigid spine. For every hit Day landed, Kralvex landed too. But Day's strikes were precise, targeted, while Kralvex's strikes were powerful but meant to overwhelm. It was a battle of different philosophies. Power versus precision, size versus speed. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The crowd was completely absorbed now. No one was betting. No one was joking. They were watching something they had never seen before. A human fighting an apex warrior to a standstill. Day's ribs cracked from a solid hit. He felt them break. The pain was sharp and immediate, but he had fought with broken ribs before. On Carthax VII, he had fought for 3 days with worse injuries. Pain was just information. It told you that you were still alive. He kept moving, kept striking. His knuckles were bloody now. His breathing came in gasps. But he did not stop. Kralvex was not unharmed either. A dozen precise cuts covered his body. One of his arms moved slower than the others. Day had damaged something in the shoulder joint. Not enough to disable it, but enough to matter. 15 minutes. The longest match Kralvex had fought in a decade. In the council seats, the politicians watched with growing horror. This was supposed to prove that humans were weak, that they needed to be controlled and guided by stronger species. Instead, it was proving the opposite. It was showing that humans could stand against the greatest warriors in the galaxy. "This changes everything," one council member whispered to another. "It changes nothing," the other snapped back. "It is just one human." "No," the first one said. "You do not understand. If one human can do this, what can a million do? What can a billion do? We have been underestimating them." On the arena floor, both warriors began to slow down. They were exhausted. Day's vision was getting blurry from blood loss and fatigue. Kralvex's breathing was labored, his movements less fluid than before. They struck at each other again and again. Each impact echoed through the silent stadium. This was no longer about winning. This was about pride, about proving something to themselves and each other. 20 minutes. Kralvex grabbed Day and threw him across the pit. Day hit the wall hard. Something else broke inside him. He tasted blood. But he stood up anyway, because that was what you did. You stood up. He ran back toward Kralvex. Not away, toward. Always toward the danger. Never retreating. That was how humans fought. That was how they survived when everything said they should die. Day jumped and wrapped his arms around Kralvex's neck. It was a desperate move. But desperation often worked when nothing else did. He struck at pressure points on the Thurian's throat, places that would make anyone, no matter how strong, struggle to breathe. Kralvex reached back and grabbed Day. He pulled him off and threw him down. But the damage was done. The apex warrior was coughing now. Struggling for air, they stood apart from each other, both barely able to stand, both bleeding, both hurt. The arena was completely silent except for their heavy breathing. An old warrior in the crowd stood up slowly. He began to clap. Just him at first, then others joined. Soon half the arena was applauding, not for a winner. There was no winner yet. They were applauding the fight itself. The courage, the skill, the sheer determination both warriors showed. Day wiped blood from his mouth. He looked at Kralvex across the distance between them. The Thurian warrior nodded once, a gesture of respect. They both knew this could not go on much longer. Something had to give, but neither of them would be the first to surrender. That was not who they were. They were warriors. And warriors fought until there was no fight left in them. The crowd held its breath as both fighters prepared for what would come next. Kralvex straightened his back slowly. Every movement looked painful. Blood dripped from his wounds onto the arena floor. His breathing was still rough from the pressure point strikes to his throat, but his eyes were clear, focused. Day stood on the other side of the pit. His left arm hung at an odd angle. Broken or dislocated, it was hard to tell. His face was swelling from impacts. Blood ran from a cut above his eye, but he was still standing. Still ready to fight, the crowd waited. The next exchange would probably decide everything. Both warriors were badly hurt. One good strike could end it now. But Kralvex did something unexpected. He lowered his arms, all four of them. He stood in a neutral stance, not aggressive, not defensive. "Just standing, enough," he said. His voice carried across the arena. "I will not continue this fight." The crowd erupted in confusion. Shouts of anger and surprise mixed together. The betting markets went into chaos again. What was happening? The apex warrior was refusing to fight? Day lowered his guard slowly. His working arm dropped to his side. "You are giving up?" he asked. There was no mockery in his voice, just honest confusion. "No," Kralvex said firmly. "I am not surrendering. I am refusing." "There is a difference." He turned to face the council seats high above the arena. "I will not kill a brother warrior for the entertainment of politicians who have never known real battle." The arena master's voice crackled over the speakers. "You must finish the match, Apex Warrior. Council law demands—" "I know what council law demands," Kralvex interrupted. His voice was loud enough that no amplification was needed. "But there are laws older than the council. Laws of honor. Laws of brotherhood forged in blood. Those laws matter more to me." A council member stood up in the special seating area. His species had tentacles instead of arms. They waved in agitation. "You signed a contract, Kralvex. You agreed to fight for the council. You cannot simply refuse." "I can," Kralvex said, "because I have completed my contract. 300 victories. 300 matches won. My oath to the council is fulfilled. He paused and let those words sink in. And now I invoke my right of final challenge. The entire arena gasped. Even Day, who did not know all the details of Thurian culture, understood something major had just happened. The atmosphere changed. It felt heavier somehow. An old Thurian in the crowd began to pray. Others of his species joined him. They knew what final challenge meant. It had not been invoked in 2,000 years. A council member who knew Thurian law spoke up. You cannot be serious. The final challenge is ancient tradition. No one has used it in modern times. The law still stands, Kralvek said. An apex warrior who has completed their sworn victories may, once in their lifetime, challenge any judgment made by the council. I challenge this sentence. This human does not deserve to die. He defended innocent lives. He fought against criminals. He acted with honor. To execute him is not justice. It is political revenge dressed up as law. The council members looked at each other nervously. The final challenge was not just about the words. It came with consequences. If Kralvex issued the challenge, any council member could choose to fight him. If they won, Kralvex would die and the human would still be executed. But if Kralvex won, the human would go free and the council would lose face across the entire galaxy. You are making a mistake, the tentacled council member said. Think about what you are risking. I have thought about it, Kralvex replied. I have thought about all the warriors I knew who died on Carthax VII. Good soldiers, brave fighters. They died in that poisoned hell while the council sat in comfortable chairs and made decisions that cost lives. This human survived what they could not. He earned his freedom through blood and suffering. I will not let politicians take that from him. He turned back to Day. I am sorry, brother. I wish we had met in different circumstances, but I cannot be the weapon that kills you, not after seeing what you have survived, not after knowing what you have endured. Day nodded slowly. His voice was rough. You would risk your life for me? We just met. We met years ago, Kralvex said, on a planet called Carthax VII. We just did not know it at the time. We walked the same ground. We breathed the same poison. We survived the same nightmare. That makes us brothers. And I do not kill my brothers for the amusement of cowards. The insult hung in the air. Kralvex had just called the council cowards, in front of everyone. There would be consequences for that. But he did not seem to care. The council went into emergency session. They huddled together, arguing in low voices. Minutes passed. The crowd watched and waited. Some aliens were recording everything. This would be broadcast across the galaxy within hours. Finally, the council's spokesman stepped forward. He looked unhappy. The council recognizes the validity of the final challenge. Kralvex, you have the right to issue it. However, we hope you will reconsider. The human broke our laws. The human saved lives, Kralvex shot back. Is that not what laws are supposed to protect? Or do laws only matter when they benefit those in power? More uncomfortable silence from the council seats. The spokesman continued. If you insist on this challenge, we must ask. Will any champion step forward to face Kralvex in defense of the council's judgment? The arena went quiet. Everyone looked around. There were warriors in the crowd. Champions from various species, but no one moved. No one volunteered. Fighting Kralvex was a death sentence. Everyone knew that. Minutes passed. No one came forward. Perhaps, Kralvex said loudly, the council will fight their own battle. Step down here and face me yourselves? More silence. The council members stayed in their seats. None of them were warriors. They were politicians, and politicians did not fight their own battles. The council has no champion willing to defend its judgment, Kralvex announced. By the ancient laws of Thurian tradition, the challenge is won by default. The human must go free, the crowd erupted. Half cheered, half shouted in anger. Arguments broke out between different species. But it did not matter. The law was clear. When no champion stepped forward, the challenger won. The council spokesman looked like he had swallowed something bitter. The human will be released. But know this, Kralvex, you have made enemies today, powerful enemies. I have made enemies before, Kralvex said calmly. I am still here. They are not. Medical teams rushed onto the arena floor. They went to both fighters. Day collapsed as soon as they reached him. His body had been running on pure determination. Now that the fight was over, everything caught up with him at once. Kralvek stayed standing but accepted treatment. Medics worked on his wounds while he watched Day being carried away on a stretcher. The human was unconscious now, but he was alive. He would survive. That was what mattered. In the council seats, politicians began to leave quickly. They did not want to answer questions from the media. They did not want to face the crowds. They had been humiliated in front of the entire galaxy, but something more important had happened here today. The galaxy had learned a lesson. Humans were not weak. They were not lucky accidents. They were warriors who had survived in places where others had died. They had earned their place in the galaxy through blood and determination, and the greatest warrior alive had called them brothers. That changed everything. The starting horn sounded across the arena. Its deep tone meant one thing. The fight had begun. The crowd expected blood. They expected Kralvex to charge forward and end the human quickly. That was how these matches usually went, fast and brutal. But Kralvex did not charge. He walked slowly to the center of the pit. His forearms hung relaxed at his sides. His eyes never left the human. Day watched him come closer. He did not move either. Both warriors met at the center line, the place where the fight should have started. Then Kralvex did something that shocked everyone watching. He raised one of his massive hands in a specific gesture. It was Thurian Sign Language, a warrior's greeting, not the kind you give to friends or family. This was the gesture warriors gave to other warriors, to equals. The crowd's laughter stopped. Confusion spread through the seats like a wave. Why would the apex warrior greet a human this way? It made no sense. Day looked at the gesture. He recognized it. He had seen it before on another battlefield in another time. He responded with a simple nod. Respectful, acknowledging what Kralvex had just offered. "You have seen the deep dark," Kralvex said. His voice came through the translator speakers, reaching every corner of the arena. It was not a question. It was a statement. Day's jaw tightened. Those words meant something specific in warrior culture across many species. The deep dark was not just empty space. It was the places where light died, where hope went to fade, where warriors went and never came back. The Kethra Nebula, Day said quietly. His voice should not have carried in the massive arena. But everyone had gone silent. They were all listening now. The Siege of Broken Stars. The Hell March of Carthax VII. The silence that followed was complete. No one moved. No one spoke. Those names were legend. Wars so terrible that most species refused to talk about them. The Kethra Nebula had consumed entire fleets in poisonous gas clouds. The Siege of Broken Stars lasted for 3 years with no mercy on either side. And Carthax VII was nightmare made real. Kralvex's eyes widened. All 4 of them locked onto Day with new intensity. "You fought at Carthax VII? That is not possible. That was a death trap, a poisoned hell where 3 armies went to die. No one survived the Hell March. 217 of us walked in," Day said. His voice was steady, but his eyes were far away, seeing things no one else could see. 12 walked out. I carried 3 of them on my back. In the crowd, an old Thurian veteran stood up. His hands shook. "Carthax VII," he whispered to those around him. "I lost my son there. They told us there were no survivors. They told us everyone died." Others began to murmur. Species who had sent soldiers to that cursed planet. Species who had received empty coffins or no news at all. The humans had been there, fighting in battles before they were even officially recognized by the Galactic Council, fighting in wars that were not theirs. Why? Someone shouted from the crowd. Why would humans fight in wars that had nothing to do with them? Day did not answer. He kept his eyes on Kralvex. The apex warrior was studying him with new understanding. This was not prey standing before him. This was not a weak creature to be crushed for entertainment. Kralvex took another step closer. His massive form towered over Day. The Hell March was 47 days through radioactive wasteland. The air burned your lungs. The ground melted through boots. The enemy attacked every hour. And the Barghests hunted at night. Day nodded slowly. The Barghests, yes, the crowd gasped. Barghests were the apex predators of Carthax VII. Massive creatures with 6 legs and claws that could tear through battle armor. They hunted by sound and smell. They never stopped once they found prey. In Thurian culture, killing a Barghest in combat was worthy of songs and celebrations. Surviving an encounter with one was rare. "Show me your marks," Kralvex demanded. There was authority in his voice. But also something else. Respect. Day hesitated. Scars were personal things. They told stories that words could not. But he understood what Kralvex was asking. Among warriors, scars were proof. They were truth written in flesh. He reached up and removed his combat jacket. His torso was visible to everyone in the arena now. The screens around the stadium zoomed in, showing every detail. His body was a map of violence. Plasma burns left smooth patches where skin had melted and healed. Blade wounds crossed his chest and arms in white lines. Chemical burns from Kethra acid had left strange patterns on his left shoulder. But there was one mark that made the entire arena gasp. 4 parallel scars ran across his ribs. They were deep, old but never fully healed. The spacing was distinctive. Every warrior who had fought on Death Worlds recognized those marks. Barghest claws. Impossible, someone whispered. He survived a close encounter with a Barghest? Not just survived, an old veteran said from the crowd. Those scars are from the front. He faced it head on. Kralvex stared at the scars. His breathing changed. Slowly, deliberately, he reached up and removed his own ceremonial chest plate. The crowd leaned forward. They had never seen the Apex warrior remove his armor during a match. His chest was covered in scars, too. Hundreds of them. Each one from a different battle, a different enemy, a different day when death had come close. But there, clearly visible among all the others, were 4 parallel scars. Identical spacing to the ones on Day's chest. Identical depth. Barghest claws. Kralvex had survived a Barghest too. He knew what it meant. He knew the terror of seeing those creatures charge out of the darkness. He knew the pain of their claws cutting through armor like paper. He knew the desperate fight that came after, where every second felt like an hour. Brother, Kralvex said. His voice shook slightly. You have walked the same path of blood that I have walked. You have faced the same darkness. You have survived the same nightmares. You carry the proof on your body. He placed one of his hands over his heart, a Thurian gesture of deepest respect. I cannot fight you like prey. I cannot kill you for the amusement of those who have never known true war. If we fight, it will be as equals, and I will show you the honor you have earned. The arena erupted in chaos. Some aliens cheered, others shouted in anger. The betting markets crashed as people tried to cancel their bets or change them. Council members in their special seats looked at each other in panic. This was not supposed to happen, but Kralvex stood firm. The greatest warrior in the galaxy had just bowed to a human, not in submission, in recognition. The Apex warrior had looked at Day and seen not a victim but a brother forged in the same fires. The laughter had stopped. No one was mocking the human now. They were all watching in stunned silence as everything they believed about humans began to crack and crumble. And in that moment, the galaxy began to see humanity differently, not as lucky primitives who stumbled into space, but as warriors who had earned their scars in the deepest, darkest corners of the universe. The lights in the arena burned bright and hot. Day stood in the center of the massive fighting pit, his hands bound in energy cuffs. Around him, thousands of aliens filled the seats. They came from every corner of the galaxy. Some had scales, some had fur, and some looked like living crystals. They all had one thing in common. They were laughing at him. Look at the human, one creature shouted from the crowd. Its voice echoed through the translation devices. So small and weak. This will be over in seconds, another one said. Humans are nothing but accidents. They got lucky finding space travel. Day kept his face calm. He had heard worse things before. Words did not hurt him. He had survived things that would break most of these aliens. But they did not know that. They only saw what they wanted to see. A small creature with soft skin and no natural weapons. To them he was prey. The station Vel 9 was the pride of the Galactic Council. It floated in neutral space, a place where all species could meet. But it had a dark purpose too. The arena was where the Council punished those who broke their laws. They called it justice. Day called it murder dressed up as entertainment. His crime was simple. 3 weeks ago, he had been working as a guard on a civilian transport ship. Pirates attacked them near the border worlds. The pirates wanted the cargo and did not care about the families on board. Day fought back. He killed 7 pirates and saved 200 innocent lives. But the pirates had connections to a council member. That member wanted revenge, so they arrested Day and brought him here. The trial lasted 10 minutes. The sentence was death by combat in the arena. Guards came and removed his energy cuffs. They threw combat gear at his feet. Basic armor, nothing special. It would not save him from what was coming. Day put it on anyway. He checked every strap and seal. Old habits from years of war. If he was going to die, he would die fighting properly. The arena master's voice boomed across the stadium. Citizens of the galaxy, today we have special entertainment. This human dared to kill the associates of council member Vextor. For this crime, he will face a champion selected by lottery. The crowd cheered. Bets flashed on screens all around the arena. Day saw the odds. 1,000 to 1 against him. No one thought he had a chance. A massive sphere appeared above the center of the arena. It was filled with names. Champions from 100 worlds. Warriors who had trained their whole lives for combat. The sphere began to spin. Names blurred together as it moved faster and faster. Day stretched his shoulders. He had fought in real wars. Places where people died not for entertainment, but because the universe was cruel. He knew pain. He knew fear. But he also knew how to survive. That was what humans did best. They survived. The sphere slowed down. One name began to glow brighter than the others. When it stopped, the entire arena went silent. For just a moment, no one made a sound. Then the noise came back twice as loud. Screaming, cheering, shock and excitement mixed together. The name on the sphere was Kralvex. The apex warrior. Day felt his stomach tighten. He knew that name. Everyone in the galaxy knew that name. Kralvex was a legend, a warrior from the Thurian Empire who had never lost a fight. He stood 12 feet tall with forearms and bone plates that covered his body like natural armor. His reflexes were so fast he could dodge plasma fire. His strength could crush steel. 300 victories. 300 dead opponents. Not one defeat. This is not a fight, someone in the crowd yelled. This is an execution. The laughter came back. Louder than before. They thought this was funny. A human against the greatest warrior in known space. It was a joke to them. But in the champion preparation room below the arena, something different was happening. Kralvex sat in front of a screen. His 4 eyes studied the information about his opponent. Name and species, basic details. Then he scrolled to the service record. Most fighters in the arena were criminals or unlucky souls caught in council politics. They had no real combat experience. But this human was different. Kralvex saw the list of battles. Real battles. Wars in the deep parts of space where light barely reached. The Kethra Nebula conflict, the Siege of Broken Stars. And there at the bottom of the list, one name that made Kralvex stop moving. Carthax 7, the Hell March. His mandibles clicked together slowly. That was not possible. Carthax 7 was a death world. 3 armies went in. None came back. The Thurian Empire sent their best commandos. Kralvex knew some of them personally. They all died in the toxic wasteland. The official record said there were no survivors. But this human's file said he was there. It said he survived 47 days in hell. It said he walked out carrying wounded soldiers on his back. Kralvex stood up. His aide rushed over, holding his ceremonial armor. Apex warrior, the crowd is ready. They wait for you to bring glory. Tell me about the human, Kralvex said quietly. Is this information correct? Was he really at Carthax 7? The aide checked his datapad. It appears so, Apex warrior. Though I do not understand how. That battle was before humans joined the galactic community. They were there anyway, Kralvex said, fighting in the shadows, fighting in places no one else would go. He looked at his reflection in the polished metal wall. His own scars from Carthax 7 still marked his chest, hidden under armor but never forgotten. Apex warrior, we must go. The crowd grows impatient. Kralvex put on his armor slowly. He attached his ceremonial weapons. But his mind was far away. Remembering a toxic planet where he had almost died, remembering the faces of brothers who did not come home. If this human walked the same ground, breathed the same poisoned air and survived, then he was no prey animal. He was a warrior. The gates to the arena opened. Bright light flooded in. The roar of the crowd hit him like a physical wave. Kralvex walked forward, his footsteps heavy on the stone floor. From the other side of the arena, the human entered. Small, alone, facing certain death. The crowd screamed for blood. They wanted a show. They wanted to see the weak human crushed by the mighty apex warrior. They wanted their entertainment. But Kralvex looked at Day across the fighting pit and saw something different. He saw the way the human moved, careful, balanced, alert, not like a victim, like someone who had danced with death before and learned the steps. The announcer began listing Kralvex's victories. 300 names, 300 kills. The crowd loved it. Then he introduced Day. Human, mercenary, no notable achievements. The laughter started again, but it would not last. Kralvex would make sure of that, because he had learned one thing in his long life as a warrior. You could tell everything about someone by the way they stood when death was coming. And this human stood like a man who had already died once and decided to come back anyway. 3 days passed before Day woke up properly. The medical bay on Station Vel 9 was quiet and clean. His body was wrapped in healing bandages. Machines beeped softly around him, monitoring his recovery. Everything hurt, but the pain meant he was alive. A nurse came in when the monitors showed he was awake. She was from a species he did not recognize. Purple skin and 3 eyes. She checked his vitals without speaking much. Professional, efficient. How long? Day asked. His voice was rough from not being used. 3 days, the nurse said. You were in bad shape. Broken ribs, fractured arm, internal bleeding, concussion. The doctors were not sure you would make it the first night. But I did. Yes. Humans are surprisingly tough. She adjusted one of the machines. You have a visitor waiting. He has been here every day. Should I send him in? Day nodded. He had a feeling he knew who it was. The door opened and Kralvex entered. The apex warrior had to duck to fit through the doorway. His wounds were bandaged too, though he moved more easily than Day could. Thurian healing was faster than human healing. Brother, Kralvex said simply. He pulled a chair over to the bed. It looked tiny under his massive frame. I am glad to see you awake. The doctors said it was uncertain. I have been through worse, Day said. Then he paused. Actually, that might not be true. That fight was pretty bad. Kralvex made a sound that might have been laughter. You fought well. Better than most warriors I have faced. You earned every scar you carry. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside the window, ships moved through space. Life continued as it always did. But something had changed. Both of them could feel it. What happens now? Day asked. The council must be angry with both of us. The council is very angry, Kralvex agreed. But there is nothing they can do. The law is the law. You are free to go wherever you want. They cannot touch you now without starting a war with the Thurian Empire. My emperor has made that very clear. Your emperor knows about this? Everyone knows about this. The fight was broadcast live across the galaxy. Billions watched. The footage is everywhere now. Kralvex leaned back carefully. Humans are suddenly very interesting to people. Many species want to know more about you, about your wars, about how you survived. Day thought about that. He was not sure how he felt about it. He had never wanted to be famous. He just wanted to do his job and survive. But life rarely cared what you wanted. I have something for you, Kralvex said. He reached into a bag he had brought with him and pulled out a wrapped bundle. Among my people, warriors who have fought together in the deep dark share a bond. We did not fight side by side, but we both walked through the same hells. That is close enough for me. He unwrapped the bundle carefully. Inside was a blade, not a fancy ceremonial weapon. This was a real war blade. The handle was worn from years of use. The metal had stains that would never completely wash out. Blood and other things from 100 battles. This is the blade I carried on Carthax 7, Kralvex said quietly. It saved my life more times than I can count. I want you to have it. Day stared at the weapon. In Thurian culture, giving someone your warblade was a huge honor. It meant you trusted them with a piece of your soul. I cannot take this. It is too important. That is exactly why you must take it, Kralvex said. Important things should go to people who understand their value. You are my brother now. Brothers share what matters most. Slowly, Day reached out with his good hand and accepted the blade. It was heavier than he expected. Well balanced. A weapon made for killing, not for show. I will carry it with honor. I know you will. Kralvex stood up. Your ship is being prepared. You can leave whenever the doctors say you are ready. Where will you go? Home, Day said. I have not seen Earth in 2 years. It might be nice to see familiar skies again. Then I wish you safe travels, brother. Kralvex placed one hand over his heart in the Thurian gesture of respect. Perhaps we will meet again someday, under better circumstances. I would like that. Kralvex turned to leave but stopped at the door. One more thing. The galaxy will not forget what happened in that arena. They laughed at humans, at you. They will not laugh anymore. Word is spreading. Your people are warriors. Real warriors. That changes politics. That changes everything. After he left, Day held the blade and thought about those words. Changes everything. What did that mean? Over the next few weeks he found out. His ship left Vel 9 station without problems. No one tried to stop him. But along the way he saw the changes happening. Human ships were being hailed with respect instead of mockery. Trading posts that used to ignore humans were now offering better deals. Species that had dismissed humanity as irrelevant were requesting diplomatic meetings. The footage from the arena had done something powerful. It had shown the galaxy that humans were not weak. One human had fought the apex warrior to a standstill. If one could do that, what could millions do? What could billions do? Fear and respect mixed together. Some species saw opportunity. Others saw threat. But no one saw humans as unimportant anymore. 6 months later, Day sat in a bar on the edge of Thurian space. It was a quiet place, the kind where people went to be left alone. He was nursing a drink and reading news feeds on his datapad. The Thurian Empire had established a formal alliance with humanity. Other species were following their lead. Trade agreements, defense pacts, cultural exchanges. Humanity was suddenly being invited to join galactic institutions that had ignored them before. "Excuse me?" a voice said. Day looked up. A young woman stood there. She was human like him, maybe 25 years old. She had the look of someone who had seen combat. "Are you Day? The one from the arena?" "Maybe," he said carefully. "Who is asking?" "My name is Hana. I'm a mercenary too. I heard stories about you, about what you did. Is it true? Did you really fight Kralvex?" Day gestured to the empty chair. Hana sat down. "It is true," he said, "though I would not recommend it. Worst fight of my life." "Everyone is talking about it," Hana said. "About how one human changed everything. Do you realize what you did? Species that used to mock us now treat us with respect. We are getting real jobs now. Real contracts. Not just the dangerous garbage no one else wants." "I just survived," Day said. "Same thing I always do. But you survived against the best warrior in the galaxy." "That matters," Hana leaned forward. "Why do you think we humans are good at this?" "At surviving?" Day thought about the question. He thought about Earth. About humanity's long history of wars and disasters and somehow making it through anyway. Because we have been fighting in the dark for a long time. We just did not make a lot of noise about it. We were too busy trying to stay alive. He touched the Thurian blade at his side. He wore it openly now. A symbol of brotherhood and respect. When you survive the darkness, you earn the right to walk in the light. Hana smiled. "I like that. Can I use it?" Sure. They talked for a while longer. About the changes happening across human space. About the new opportunities opening up. About how strange it felt to be respected instead of dismissed. Eventually, Hana left to meet her crew. Day sat alone again and finished his drink. Outside the bar window, he could see ships coming and going. Human ships mixed with Thurian vessels and others from across the galaxy, working together, trading, talking, all because one warrior had recognized another. All because Kralvex had stopped laughing and started listening. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never judge someone by their appearance. Never assume weakness without proof. And never ever underestimate a species that learned to survive in the void itself. Humanity had arrived. Not with conquest or arrogance, but with the quiet respect of those who had earned their place through blood and determination. They had fought in the shadows. They had survived impossible odds. They had walked through the deep dark and come out stronger. The apex warrior had called them brothers. And that simple act of recognition had opened doors that might have stayed closed forever. It had shown the galaxy that humans deserved a seat at the table. Not because they demanded it, but because they had proven themselves worthy of it. Day paid for his drink and stood up to leave. His body still ached sometimes from the injuries. The scars had healed, but they would never fully disappear. That was fine. Scars were proof. They told stories that words could not. He walked out into the busy port and disappeared into the crowd. Just another human among billions. But every single one of those billions now carried themselves a little straighter, held their heads a little higher, because the galaxy knew the truth now. Humans were not weak. They were warriors, and warriors deserved respect.